All right, let's get right into it. Think about your business like a souped-up go-kart. It's super fast, really nimble, and can turn on a dime. But then, success hits. And suddenly, you've got to become this massive freight train, something that can haul huge loads across the country. Here's the problem, right? You can't just bolt more wheels onto the go-kart and call it a day. That's the paradox of growth. And today, we're going to break down how to scale up without completely breaking down.
This is a question that pretty much every successful founder has to ask themselves eventually. Growth feels amazing right up until the moment it doesn't. That victory lap you're taking can suddenly show you all these serious cracks in the foundation. So really, what is that hidden cost? What's the price tag on getting bigger?
Well, to answer that, we first have to look at the anatomy of these growing pains. And listen, these aren't some unique, bizarre problems. They're actually super predictable hurdles that almost every single expanding company runs into on their journey from small to big.
These right here are the classic signs that your growth is starting to cause some serious friction. Communication between teams. It starts to fall apart. Making decisions. Suddenly it slows to a crawl. And that incredible, unified culture that made you so successful in the first place, it starts to fracture, creating these little isolated islands instead of one big, cohesive team.
And what all of those issues add up to is this. You lose that startup spark. All that agility, that energy, that kind of us against the world vibe that got the company off the ground, it just gets bogged down by the sheer weight of its own success.
So, how do you fight back? How do you actually get bigger without losing your soul in the process? Okay, that brings us to the good stuff, a scalable solution kit. Think of it as a playbook for navigating this really tricky phase and actually achieving growth that lasts. This playbook for growth really stands on 4 pillars. First, you've got to swap out all those makeshift duct tape solutions for solid systems and scalable processes. But the mechanics are only half the story. You have to be proactive, almost aggressive about protecting your culture, making sure it doesn't get watered down. And steering the whole ship? That's leadership, making sure every single decision ties back to the company's core mission.
Now, a huge piece of building those efficient systems is using technology. And a perfect example of this is an ERP system. The best way to think about it is like a central nervous system for your whole company. It pulls everything together, finance, HR, the supply chain, you name it, making sure everyone is working from the exact same information. That is absolutely critical for keeping it all together as you grow.
All right, so theory is great, but let's look at a real-world titan that dealt with this exact problem on a massive scale. Let's dig into how Google managed to keep its innovative edge while ballooning into a global behemoth.
Google's genius move was this kind of hub-and-spoke model. They built a super strong central hub by keeping their core cultural values consistent across the entire organization. But, and this is the key, they gave their big divisions like YouTube and Google Cloud the freedom to operate like their own nimble startups. It gave them the best of both worlds, stability and agility. It let them innovate like crazy without the whole thing falling apart.
And this quote just sums up their win perfectly. By decentralizing in a really smart, structured way, they held on to what made them special to begin with, their innovation and their focus. They absolutely refused to let their size become a disadvantage.
And just so you get a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here, more than 150,000 employees, to maintain that kind of agility and a strong culture with a team that size, it's just remarkable. It really proves that if you have the right strategy, it can be done.
So, what's the big lesson here? What's the bottom line in all of this? It's simple, but it's really powerful. As you grow, you absolutely need structure. You need systems, you need processes. That's just non-negotiable. But that structure doesn't have to be a creativity-crushing machine. It can, and it really should, be designed to protect and even empower the very culture that got you there in the first place.
And that leaves us with one final and I think critical question to think about. I want you to look at your own team, your own company, maybe even just your own project. As it gets bigger, is it truly built to grow and thrive? Or is it maybe unknowingly built to crack under the pressure of its own success? That's something worth thinking about.